All right, Jake, you are a punk.
Kinda.
Goth?
Yeah, I'd
Goth.
say so. It's definitely these days definitely a mixture of the two.
Yeah. Well, I saw a couple videos since the last time you've been on that I wanted to show you and get your thoughts on because you have talked many, many times about how this entire movement has been co-opted, and now the thought is that you have to be a super lefty to be a part of goth and punk and all that. That's the general thought, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's certainly the sentiment that's being shared.
Well, I saw this. This is from the Libertarian Goth over on
OLG.
X. Are you familiar with this person?
Yeah, yeah, she comes in my chat sometimes.
Okay. Libertarian Goth. X's number one Goth Liberty misfit right here. She says, in before goalpost is moved, saying he's not a real punk. And this is a quick 21 seconds, certainly from a while ago.
Punk became like fascist. It has to be this way or else.
But didn't you dictate that to some extent?
No, I did not. I've always said music should be many attitudes. All are tolerable. It becomes intolerable when one particular form takes over and obliterates the rest. That is wrong. Punk
Thoughts on that, Jake?
It's John Lydon from the Sex Pistols,
Mm-hmm.
and he is 100% correct. And so am I by reiterating the exact same sentiment decades later. And it's amazing, again, how the leftists tend to try to erase history that does not perfectly match what they want the current climate to be, which is politically theirs. And this is what I'm trying to say about goth. This is also what I'm doing about punk as well. I mean, the whole punk thing is particularly more aggressive than goth was. Goth was far more subdued in its self-expression. It was more an escapism. It was more introspective. It was more eloquent. It was more artistic. Whereas punk was very loud, very omnidirectional in its aggression and its disobedience. And I certainly feel like I'm a mixture of those two things. So goth punk or punk goth, I guess, is a relatively good label to use here. I certainly wouldn't be the kind of person to want to be using labels if it wasn't for the fact that it's incredibly useful and conducive to helping direct the kind of message I have onto the very specific type of subculture I'm trying to liberate. Otherwise, labels and stuff like that is very, very ungoth to have. But I think it's a necessity based on the kind of mission and message that I have at the moment. But yeah, John Lydon from Sex Pistols also to this day still actually has the same message, the same sentiment. It's even more specific these days by saying he never thought he'd see liberals or people on the left being the what is it, the squares or the nerds or the dorks or those trying to keep people out, and the people on the right are now cool, something like that. I'm paraphrasing it, I can't really remember it, but yeah, no, he still thinks that, and to even further prove the fact that the original subcultures were built on the ethics of these things are for everyone who has something to express. The only DM, almost exclusively the DMs I get from people saying, "Great job, Jake. You're doing a great job. That's exactly what it's like. That's exactly what it was. You are correct." Are people who were goth in the 80s
Mm-hmm.
and early 90s. It's almost exclusively people in like 50s and in their late 50s and 60s coming through and just be like, "Yes, that's what it was. That's what it used to be like. Fucking tell them, Jake." And it's always them. So that's how I know, not only based on the historical research that I've done, and also the anecdotal data that I have as well, being goth through the mid to late 2000s, um, because it was the same then as well. But it's also because all these old heads have come through about goth who actually were there since the inception. Some of them before the word goth was even invented, back when it was just like a thing, like alt. People were just being alternative back when it was just post punk, just being like, "Yes, that's exactly what it was like. You're 100% correct. Fucking tell them." So that's how I know I'm on the right path, and that's how I know exactly that's what goth and punk was and should still be.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I found an interview from the '80s as well. This was Regis and Kathy Lee, which was an American
Oh, whoa, that's
TV
old.
show. Yes, Regis and Kathy Lee.
Is that Regis Philbin?
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, and this is also from Libertarian Goth over here. A quick 30-second snippet of this show. Let's see this.
Politically, where would you say you are?
Everybody's different. You
Yeah,
can't
everyone's got their own
generalize.
beliefs, just like everyone out here. Everyone's gonna have their own beliefs.
We're all individuals. You know, you can't sit here and say, yeah, we're all one thing, because everyone here has 5 different opinions.
I doubt they're Republicans.
I am.
I can't speak for everybody, but that we're like all American. And when you get into right wing and left wing, you get into politics, and you'll always argue that point.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us, I think, are proud to live in America because being communist is really downhill. You go nowhere being into communism.
Politically.
The entire narrative absolutely destroyed in a single, 20-second, 30-second clip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to erase this from history. They really are. They're trying to make sure that these original, far more open-minded and far more ironically inclusive sentiments are no longer shared. Now you have to be a leftist. You have to believe something because, it's this tribalistic. I've always said this. Subcultures these days have become a microcosm of what is currently happening in the entirety of Western civilization, with leftism and this morally virtuous bullshit has permeated everything from mediated comic books to TV shows. It's in judicial systems letting people out, stab again, and leftism is sort of everywhere. It's in everything at the moment, and it is represented perfectly in this microcosm of subcultures. You get to see it in a far more condensed form, and it's far more obvious.
I think, I can absolutely relate to this. I've never been goth. I've talked about how like this show is punk because we're against the system, and the idea that people that the system being these giant global fucking businesses that push this agenda on people, right? And the fact that this show, or me in particular, is seen as punk in any way, shape, or form is fucking insane to me, because I've seen the idea of what punk is supposed to be. But we've all seen our hobbies and our lifestyles just totally ransacked by this agenda, and the idea that you can't think a certain way if you want to be a part of this club. And that to me has always been insane. And you go back to this clip. This is from the late '80s, early '90s, whenever it was. Yeah. And you look at this stuff. Phoenix, you grew up in and around. I would say you probably are familiar with the punk scene.
Yeah, my most of my friends, so I come from the art community, so my friends were punks, goths, you name it. I mean, I hung with that was always my crew. I couldn't get along with the jocks and the stockbroker group. So my whole life has been around that.
What were your thoughts on seeing those people talk? I mean, is this something
that's
that
what
can
it
be corrected?
was? I mean that's exactly what it was. Everyone, the idea was about rebellion, and that rebellion could be kind of whatever you wanted it to be. It wasn't necessarily a right wing versus a left wing or anything like that. I'd even say that especially the goth group wasn't particularly political at all. Actually, they were kind of their own thing. Can this be fixed? Yeah, exactly.
It was all about being a mediator. Like, and you had day-to-day life, which was, back then it was, Republicans and versus like the hippies and all those, peace and love and all this kind of. And then people were always at odds because, things were obviously very politically contentious for quite some time, especially in the sort of, post-industrial, post-war environment. And subcultures were created for people who are on all sides of the spectrum to meet and finally have some sort of cohesiveness to share in art and music, to not discuss these things, to not politicize their identities, and instead just share in common ground and find mutual respect, which is the global currency. Without mutual respect, you have nothing but contention worldwide. So these subcultures were made as an escapism to leave that shit at the door, and you bring in your mutual respect for everybody, and you just share in art and expression.
Do you see, kind of the question that was going for me, like, do you see a shift happening? Because I actually am pretty hopeful on this that you will see a shift. Jake, what would you say from your perspective? We're going in a good direction?
Yeah, well, I have a clip going out tonight that sort of covers something based on what you're asking there, but I would say that the shift is most certainly happening. I don't want to take full credit for that. I would definitely say I'm certainly instrumental in this, sort of normalizing the perception of goths being quote unquote based or not interested in things like political affiliations in order to be associated with the subculture. Certainly pushing that point, and I'm pushing that point to a lot of people who usually would not be aware of something like this. And I mean, tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000, maybe more, are like have seen me with my message saying goth is for everybody. It's not just for leftists. I say offensive words. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. And people are like, oh shit, okay, so it did. Okay, I didn't realize goth was actually kind of still like that. That's cool. I thought maybe they were just Antifa now, but
Yeah.
no, we got the GACC over on Facebook, and which is a group of it's Goths Against Cancel Culture. Which is essentially just a group, a very large group of alternative people that are able to disagree with each other respectfully and mainly just share in the subculture, which is everything but leftism. You know, it's music, it's cinema, it's the core values, which are individualism. It's sort of dark, macabre aspects of mankind and of human nature and stuff like that. And it's a really great group of people. And me getting the numbers that I get and them getting the amount of people in that group that they're getting is a sign that we are winning and we are going to be liberating goth.
Do you see a day? What do you think? Is this a year out, 6 years out, 10 years
Well,
out?
I actually did a video where I predicted exactly how this is going to go step by step a couple of months ago. Essentially, this is not going to be an overturn of current spaces. It's going to be a fracturing. There's going to be new spaces created where people who do not wish to discuss politics will go instead. This new fracture, this new structure of base goth individuals who don't want to talk about politics, that just want to share the music, will become the most popular form of it. And the old version, the old spaces, the old areas where these leftists existed, they will remain there and they will be the less popular version. Eventually, they will be the laughingstock of the subculture because this new music-based subculture, the reform of goth, if you like, will now once again be the largest portion of it. And because leftists are narcissists, one of two things is going to happen. Those that are left behind in these leftist alternative spaces, are going to do either stop talking all this shit and just give it all up because they're no longer getting the, the commendations and the admiration and the likes and the shares and the engagement. They're just going to be like, well, there's no point doing this anymore. And then just take the makeup off and they'll go get a job. And they'll just won't associate with it anymore because it's like a right-wing grift or whatever.
Right.
The other half, however, I think are going to just as equally performatively move over to this new, reformed version of goth and then start signaling different virtues to continue getting the same engagement. They'll just shift politically in order to keep getting their egos stroked and accommodating their narcissistic personality disorder and the tendencies that come with it.
I think that's really what a lot of this comes back to is narcissism, right?
Yes.
Just straight up narcissism. And and I've said this many times, there's nothing worse than an insecure narcissist. And that is littered throughout these different hobbies where they get just a tiny little power and then they hold on and they boot everybody out. And I think you're right. Ultimately, this is going to be one of those situations where they're the outcast. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But we got time. I got all the fucking time in the world to save this shit.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Hello, I'm Craig. Hit the subscribe button.